Good evening. I'll now call to order the Monday, May 1st regular town council meeting. If you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sounds good to have a lot of people doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
Up first, the approval of a memorandum of the April 10th, 2023 regular meeting. A copy has been posted. Are there questions for counselors?
I'll make a motion to approve.
First by Counselor Garrett, second by Counselor Trailer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
For the benefit of next month's minutes, it was second by Melton.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Just didn't want to get next month's minutes wrong.
So that was a first by Counselor Garrett and a second by Counselor Melton. Up next would be the approval of the memorandum of the April 17th regular meeting. A copy of those have been posted. I do have on right after the opening, Amy, when we go to claims, the title of that is approval of the April 10th, 2023 claims, and those were for the 17th.
Oh, okay.
So just kind of a note there. Other than that, I would make a motion to approve the memorandum.
Second.
A second by Vice President Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next on the agenda is the approval of May 1st, 2023 claims. Before we get into questions about claims, I would just point out, I was notified this afternoon that the claims are incorrect. At the next meeting, we will have 2 separate claims dockets. One will need to be approved and paid, and the other will need to be approved that have already been paid. So at this,
I won't vote to approve something that's already been paid.
well, that'll be on the next meeting.
All right.
So at this point, I would actually make a motion to deny these claims due to error, and we will revisit that at the next meeting.
So moved.
Second by Counselor Trailer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next is a request to speak on agenda item. Amy, do we have any requests to speak?
No, we do not.
All right, moving on. We have a special presentation from Lieutenant Casey Curtis. Good evening.
Good evening, Council President and Councilors. I'm humbled to be here yet again this evening. To introduce myself, I'm Lieutenant Casey Curtis with the Zionsville Fire Department. I protect the west side of Zionsville, Station 293 on the A shift. We're very proud of our area and our station, what we do out there. I was deployed last year in the United States Navy. I was a reservist. I recently stopped after 15 and a half years. I decided it was time to part ways and focus more attention on my family. But during that deployment, I had some wonderful town employees that took care of me. And by reaching out to me, by taking care of my family, making sure everything was just copacetic so I can continue to be a citizen sailor while forward deployed, continuing to weave that blanket of freedom that we all enjoy. So with that, I have Mr. Barney Hayes with the employer support of the Guard and Reserve, who's going to come up here, and we have some Patriot Award to hand out.
Thank you.
The employer support of the Guard and Reserve is
I'm sorry.
I'm an old artillery officer. I'm used to hollering. The employer support of the Guard and Reserve is a Department of Defense agency. Our purpose is to foster good relationships between employers and their employees who are members of the Guard and Reserve. Since 1972, when the draft ended, the Guard and Reserve have become an increasingly important part of our military structure. Today, between 40 and 50% of our military strength is in the Reserve and National Guard. That means 1 out of every 2 soldier, sailor, Marine, airman on active duty is a weekend warrior. When they go away, the ESGR's purpose is to foster good relationships so that, just like Casey said, his family is taken care of, and he knows that, which makes him a more effective soldier, sailor, Marine, airman, whatever. When they do a good job like that, Casey presents or nominates several people who supported him for an award. I'm here to present those awards tonight. There are several of them here, and if we can, Casey, let's just get this started and get it over with.
Yes, sir. Fire Chief James Van Gorder. HR Director Joe Keel. And the members that we currently do not have with us is Mayor Emily Styron, Assistant Fire Chief Josh Frost, Division Chief of Training Aaron Gibbons, and Angie.
Josh is in the back.
Josh. Oh, I apologize. Assistant Chief Josh Frost. Whew. And Angie Eggers from Human Resources.
Is that everybody we have?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. Could I ask one of you?
Got a pro coming up.
I'll get it.
Is that way the Washington?
That's right.
Can we have a round of applause for the
Again, thank you for the opportunity. And again, thank you for being a wonderful employer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Curtis, for your service and all those folks that supported him while he was in duty. That's a pretty unique and really neat things to see.
Comment. National Guard Reserve used to be considered a strategic reserve. Unfortunately, today, they are a deployable asset. The old days of being joined the Guard and Reserve in a weekend, a month, and 2 weeks of summertime is a thing of the past. If you go into the Guard or Reserve today, you're going to be deployed to Kuwait, Bosnia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Lord only knows where, but it's going to be more than 2 weeks in summertime and a weekend a month. That's why we need people like you to support your troops, because that makes them a better troop. Thank you all very much, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I do not.
All right. Up next would be the mayor administration update, and we did not receive a mayor administration update, so we'll move on to council update. Are there any questions from councilors? Updates from councilors, I should say. I will say, in communication with the finance department, and you guys have seen this email, and I'll just kind of make this available to the public. We are shooting for a May 8th timeline or May 8th date to get available fund balances. Those should be reconciled, likely accurately reconciled within 8 to 12 weeks after that. So I just wanted to make sure council is aware of that communication.
So just to be clear, the balances we'll get May 8th will be as of the end of last year, right?
The balances that we should get on May 8th should be accurate balances. We just won't have the actual bank statement with it. It should be an accurate balance.
Okay.
I thought the communication was that we, on May 8th, we would have the year end 22 balances. That's kind of what I understood.
On May 8th, we'll have the annual financial report
Right.
from the previous software system that will be able to be filed with the state of Indiana and the State Board of Accounts. In talking with Cindy today, Cindy tells me that when they get that statement, we will have fund balances. And then to have the information uploaded into the new system so that the public could see the appropriations and everything is the 8 to 12 week mark. So just wanted to update
Good to
there.
know.
First item up on old business is a consideration of a resolution regarding the appropriation of additional funds. This is resolution 2023-11, and this was continued from the last town council meeting. Good evening, Jared.
Good evening, councilors. Jared Logston, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. Before you is the request for an additional appropriation of $500,000 from Fund 403 Parks Non-Reverting Capital for the completion of the Big Four Trail Widening and Expansion Project. Project was funded in its entirety in the 2022 budget, but failed to reappropriate or encumber funds within the 2023 budget process due to unintended omission. It is our hope that council will grant this appropriation so the department may complete the project as originally proposed, resulting in one single closure event for our community and a complete rail trail corridor by fall 2023. Should this request not be approved, the Parks and Recreation Department would remove the final portion of the widening project from Town Hall to Starkey Avenue from the scope of work of Phase 2 to ensure adequate project funding remains for the quantity discrepancies, additional undercuts, and unpredictable change orders that might occur along the widening from Mulberry Tunnel to just north of Town Hall. I have provided a map of that section for your review prior to this. Additionally, last meeting, there was besides what would be removed if it was not approved, there was the request to explore other funding alternatives to completing the project without asking for this full amount. We took a look at the impact fees that were proposed for the Trailhead project and did identify that we could fully utilize those impact fees in an additional amount of $117,955.80. So the impact fee program is a fee that is associated with every new roof in Zionsville. And as developers create those new houses, they pay a fee per resident, for each new roof. And then those funds are added to the parks fund balance within the 2012 or 2022 impact fees for the development of our park system. So it's truly allowing development to pay for development. It is a very specific plan, and those items can only be used for certain amenities in our park system. So due to our previous strategy with those funds, we have a very healthy balance over 2 million. And it is our priority to utilize the 2012 funds whenever we can to utilize those funds before we've replaced all the amenities and we wouldn't be able to use them. So that request would come before you the next time we have an opportunity to post that public notice for those funds. And with that, we could also offset tonight's request by 200,000 and reduce that to 300,000 for the completion of the project. So one scenario is the consideration of tonight's proposal. Should that not be funded, we would remove a portion of the rail trail widening. Scenario 2 is exploring the use of additional impact fees as well as a reduced ask tonight to complete the project as proposed.
Jared, which account was the impact fee going to come from? 453 or 473?
453.
And you say there's over $2 million in that account right now?
Yes, we've only used 80,000 in the history of my employment with Zionsville. So that was north of 2.4 at the beginning of 2022.
Well, 453 is the new park impact fee. 473 is the old park impact.
Oh, then it will be the 2012. I apologize.
It'll be the 2012.
It'll be the 2012 impact fee
So
fund.
the old account.
Yes.
What's the annual additional revenue to that impact fee?
That is completely dependent on the development in our community. So each new roof has a fee associated with it. So as every development project is approved, the developer will pay that impact fee per roof in their project. So as Zionsville continues to grow, Project proposed at the last plan commission had over 280 roofs. So just extrapolating that, single family, I believe, is around $1,200 per dwelling. So it adds up quite exponentially quickly.
So this is a one-time impact fee assessed on each home.
Yes. So every 5 years we're to update that. So there will be a 2027 impact fee, which reevaluates the needs of the park system. So if we find out that we need a tennis court for every 20,000 people instead of every 40,000, that's our opportunity to re-gauge that. And then if we have a deficit, we can utilize those impact fees to get up to that ratio that we all agree on. And there is a committee that reviews park impact fees at those times, and all agree upon that ratio.
So part of this request is for overruns, unanticipated overruns, change orders, whatever that may be. How much of this request is for those overruns?
Approximately 100,000 of that 300,000 would go towards that.
What happens if you don't incur those overruns?
Then they would go back to 403 for future use. I told this council in September when we discussed the budget that our plan was to focus on operations this year and just continue the projects we had and see those through. And that's still the promise today.
So if I think about how I used to do budgeting, you have X amount of dollars and everything below that falls off the list. I noticed, and I appreciate you coming back with other ways to pay for it that is still cash out of pocket. Are there no other, is this, I guess, the least prioritized project, given that you have not proposed cutting any other current projects that are in the budget?
All the other projects in the budget are actively underway as well. So at this point, if we were to pause the pickleball courts and not resurface them, I mean, then we'd have a slab that's just not complete. And other capital funds are just for closing out Overly Warman Park. So it's truly just trying to put a pin and bow on these projects that are carrying over from last year.
That pickleball court also wasn't in the budget, right? That came to us for an additional appropriation a couple of months ago.
Yes and no. So that was proposed, but was also omitted. So and that was available in last October as well.
There were a lot of things proposed. Like it's either in or it's not in the budget, right? I guess I'm not at the point that I'm comfortable with spending this money, partly because the requests I've already seen, including the bond that's coming up, which I am supportive of, and partly because I think our finance situation is still, I can't say this in the meeting, but it's not good. You know, we've got claims being paid that we haven't approved. I've got fund balances I don't figure out. Like part of this, I think Jared is a victim of timing. I don't know how I can approve money when I don't know definitively how much money we have. That's just where I'm at. It's not you. I think it's anyone coming in front of me right now wanting a pretty big check. I need to have a general sense of the finances before I sign that check.
And that kind of goes to my comment at the last meeting, which was, I think in this 403 fund, you had estimated, or Cindy had estimated it was like $900,000 balance.
Yeah.
And we were asking for 500 out of it.
Mhm.
That still sound accurate or reasonably?
Yes. And you know, this fund, it's only for capital projects. So we kind of know what's been going in and going out since utilizing it. So we're very fairly confident in that number.
Jared, you mentioned a few different options. What do you really need from us today to get it done?
So one strategy would be your consideration for the full amount today. And then as we come before you in the future to utilize those impact fees, you could decrease this allocation by that amount, if that would be more appropriate. Truly, we just want to complete the project at this time as originally scoped, disturbing the community one time and allowing us to prescriptively maintain the rail trail moving forward, all of it being within a year of age.
Is this something that we could give you the initial portion, you said 130,000, is that right, to finish this? Is this something that you would feel comfortable taking the 130, moving forward, and then ask for more appropriations as the problems occur, if there are problems? And I guess in my mind, as a contractor, you got to have some idea what you're really going to have come, be the problem. You've already been fixing the pathway to the north and this last little bit of pathway here. I just don't understand how we don't know. And we're just asking for 500,000 just in case.
And it's truly what we've experienced in phase one as well as the northern expansion is just the undercut. So you would have thought 100-year-old rail bed would be pretty well compacted and we wouldn't be having these issues, but we're still seeing subgrade that's not passing the proof roll, therefore requiring more stone. And it's, 40 feet here, 160 feet here, and that truly adds up.
But it's because we're widening it, right? It's not because the actual rail bed is in bad shape. It's actually because we're widening the path.
It just depends on the segment. So we've discovered that, underground water sources that are weakening in it, and you can kind of see where it's channeled in its history, and it makes sense once you start digging. So we're at end of life of this trail, and we rather do it right now so we can have a solid trail moving forward.
I guess, why was this omitted?
The capital projects of the park system were omitted. They just weren't presented to this council. We were asked to prepare our budgets and provide them, and it just never got it presented to this group. And I discovered that, and it was just too late to include it in the DGLF. So first thing this year, we put it on the public notice to get it appropriated as an additional appropriation.
I guess that's my problem, right?
Mhm.
Like, why are we hearing about this now? And like, we approved the budget. We just keep asking for more stuff.
It really is like the unfortunate, just never ending saga of the finance system and debacle that the last 3 years has been.
Well, and this is also a scenario where we've requested capital projects be removed from the budget in an effort to balance the budget. And if we're in a spot where that was removed, so the parks budget would be balanced, and now we're asked to continue to spend money in excess. I mean, Jared sent us an email and a week or 2 weeks ago that talked about even additional requests coming down for later. So, I mean, I'm with Councilor Garrett from the perspective of, and I've said this to this council, I've shared this with the administration, and I'll share it with the public. I mean, it's not just you, Jared. I mean, I don't know. The mayor and the budget process continue to equate public finance to personal finance. And if you take that example, if I don't know how much money I have in my checking account, I don't know how much money I can spend. And if we're going to continue to look at fund balances, and the last updated fund balance I have as of November of 2022, I mean, it does show in this account having $1.2 million, but if you're saying it's 900, I don't know what we spent the rest of the money on. It's not necessarily relevant, but yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think until we get fund balances, accurate, up-to-date fund balances, I'm not comfortable approving appropriations above and beyond what's budgeted.
Just to comment on, I mean, if it at the end of November, if it was 1.2 and we're now at 900,000, I think it is relevant of what we spent that 300,000 delta on. Because if we're spending down the reserves that quickly from we just spent down 25% of the reserves in a very short period of time. I think we all like to know.
Yeah, so 900,000 from this account was allocated last year, 600,000 going towards the rail trail, 300,000 towards the pickleball courts. So just invoices received towards the end of the year went towards that.
Yeah, so. And that was my question on how do all these funds get funded? Because the purpose of the reserve is for capital projects in these times, but to the degree that we spend down the reserves, that is a question that we have to deal with, right? What exactly are we spending it on? What are we comfortable taking the reserves down to? I think that fiscal policy is kind of missing from how we address all these questions as well. So.
Jared, I do believe you have the money and to do it. It's a question of, is it the right spend at the right time? I don't believe it's going to pass today. I would make a motion to see if it would, but I don't know if that's what you want. I would also consider making a motion to push it back until we see if the fund balances, if that would help. So I would maybe make a motion to continue it if you're ready for a motion at any time. Otherwise, I could make a motion, but I would be afraid it would fail.
Heather, can we continue these, or is this something
You
that we
can.
have to,
For an additional appropriation, you have to hold the public hearing on the date in which it was
which we've done?
published. And so that would be for tonight. You are allowed to continue it, and you just can't consider anything above the amount that was published without going back through the public notification and publishing process.
Does it have to go on the next meeting, or can it
Does
just be
not. It
continued
can- it
until
can
we
be
get the fund
continued.
balances?
Yes, it can just be continued like any other matter until completion. There's no definitive timeline.
Yeah.
It's really just a matter of, I think after some period of time, it's good to give the public notice again, but technically the law doesn't require it.
Is this something we can approve a lesser number?
You could definitely approve less than 500,000. I think the amount was 500,000 looking at Jared. But you can't go above it without going back and republishing.
So we don't have to
any
change this
additional amount.
document. We just.
Right. You can do anything
initial-
up to the 500,000.
Is there any reason this needs to be approved tonight?
We still have time before we switch over to phase two, thanks to the weather. So we would still be comfortable continuing this if that's the desire of the council.
Then I would move to continue. Till later.
Well, may I ask, did we actually open and close the public hearing? Did I miss
We've
that?
already had the public hearing.
Okay,
This is
you-
a
so you did it
continu-
so fast.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
you did it last
continued
time.
this at
That's
the
right.
last meeting. So the public hearing was in the April meeting.
That's right. Okay, yes, then you're fine.
So. We have a motion to continue from Counselor Burke, a second from Counselor Choi. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That is one. Motion passes 6 in favor, 1 opposed.
Thank you.
Up next on old business is a consideration of an ordinance authorizing bonds. This is for the Carpenter Nature Preserve. This is ordinance 2023-09. This is a second reading. Jared?
Thank you all again, council. Thanks for sitting through 46 slides of the Carpenter Nature Preserve last meeting. I'll keep it a little more brief this evening and just happy to answer any additional questions you may have. Again, this is a request for a bond not to exceed 5.5 million, 5 million of which would go towards the project, which is the acquisition of the Carpenter Nature Preserve. That's a 215 acre former golf course in Union Township. And the other remaining funds would be towards the design and construction documents associated with phase 2.1 of construction. So the first phase of infrastructure. We have our bond counsel here tonight as well to answer any questions, and happy to move forward.
I know last meeting, and it still is capped at 5%. The expected was maybe in the high threes. Is there any anticipated change that's happened in the last month that would change that where it's at? Okay.
I would just real quick. I mean, I certainly appreciate, the folks who have reached out on this project. Jared, and maybe, I know John's in the back of the room too. I mean, I guess when this was first presented, it was presented as acquisition, and I had a conversation with the Parks Board president in March where, he made the comment, I wish you could just think of this as acquisition, right? And in the last meeting, we went from acquisition and some other things. I guess as we start thinking through, and this will go right back to finance for me, because I've heard from people in my district that say, listen, you're right. We need the trail down Oak Street. We need the restrooms in the village. I've heard people say, I like the idea of the park. I don't know that we've been told over and over again, we have money, but we don't know how much we have. I don't know that I necessarily want to bond for it. Can we bond for some of it? Can we pay cash for some of it? when I went back and looked at the November 2022 balances, we had 5 park funds or 4 park funds, I should say. At the end of 2022, that totaled over $6.5 million in cash. Many of those averaged $2.5 million a month, $1.5 million a month. Some of them were never touched, right? I mean, you talk about 403. I mean, it wasn't touched all year last year. You know, the parks fee, the old parks fee account in November had over $2.5 million in it. The capital fund had over $2.1 million in it. You know, we've got ARPA money that was never touched. The general account's got about $5.5 million in it again as of November. I mean, that's $18 million. And I guess my question is, did we ever consider cash? Because if it's cash, then we can really just get it for the acquisition, just for the purchase price. And then we can allow fundraising efforts to work itself out. I know that's been a big part of it. You maybe reserve the $19 million worth of bonding capacity that could maybe escalate the project. I guess from my perspective, it kind of goes back from a financial discussion of, you know, do we want to burn an extra $1 million or $750,000, whatever it is, to service the bond when we can, if we have cash available, we can just pay cash for it.
Yeah, and I'm happy to speak to that. So as we were forming the strategy of how do we make this happen with what we have, we looked at all those funds, and some of those do have limitations like the impact fees, which are some of our largest funds where, you know, they can only fund a restroom or a multi-use court. And we actually looked in the 2022 plan for impact fees, and we can fund up to 31 acres of acquisition in our park system. But after that, that's all the more impact fees can be utilized. So we did explore all of those options, and ultimately the bond was chosen as the best tool in our tool belt because we have 500 acres today in our park system, and it's our responsibility not to drain all of our resources into any one amenity. So we have to look at how can we continue to grow while still maintaining what we have. You know, your brand's only as good as not only what's new and shiny, but also your history and how you take care of things. So truly knowing that we have capital funds available in our cash reserve should a piece of infrastructure go out and we need to prioritize a bridge unexpectedly, or a playground that's no longer safe that needs rehabbed, or simply just paving asphalt. You know, these improvements are never going to stop. There's always maintenance on parkland. So we chose the bond strategies knowing that we wouldn't utilize that full capacity. We could accomplish this and still look to the future should there be other opportunities while still having cash reserves so we can execute the next 5-year master plan as well as any unanticipated maintenance along the way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess I just, you know, I guess it would have been nice to have that dialogue to see maybe we take $1 million from the general account. Maybe we take $1 million from ARPA. Maybe we take, you know, 2.5 from one of the other 4 accounts. And then we don't have to worry about the debt, the service, the debt, and increase in taxes as minimal as it is. But that conversation, you know, never took place. So I just wanted to get some clarity there.
And I can speak to the ARPA as well. So we did explore that. One of Councilor Garrett's concerns is how can we accomplish this as cheaply as possible for our community? And we did explore ARPA funding, and we're told that would be in conflict with the Next Level Conservation Trust, that $3 million grant. So we didn't want to open up that can of worms and lose out on future monies because of the strategy we chose early on.
You clarify how that is in conflict. What was the reason that they brought forward?
So the Next Level Conservation Trust program is repackaged, reutilized state ARPA funds. So the DNR, when discussing that, they didn't feel comfortable with local ARPA funds paying for it, and then those being reimbursed with state ARPA funds. So to avoid that conflict, they strongly recommended not going down that.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
I do believe you could probably find the cash to do it. You do miss out on a $3 million opportunity that you wouldn't have to bond, but you're also getting that as a nice supplement. And if we were to, even if we acquired it, we still have plans on how we want to utilize the park. And that would then have to come at some other point and, or come from general funds that we would have to dig up in the next couple of years. So for me, I thought it was a game changer when that grant became available, because it does relieve even longer term spend on the front end. It's a hard deal to walk away from. I don't know what the absolute bare minimum you have to bond is to do that. I don't know if it's the full ask. It's close, probably. I'm certainly in favor of this. We need to acquire this. If there's another way to do it that's more efficient, I'm willing to listen to that. But that $3 million is a big darn incentive sitting in front of us.
And also the carpenters generously in the last evening meeting also said they would seed that Parks Foundation with $500,000 on top of that, on top of the other two, I think, grants we could get. So I appreciate your line of thinking for sure. Now that I know what the bond rates are, how low they are, I think that's the easier path, but we should have had that conversation sooner.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, there's a lot of cash apparently that we're sitting on, and we don't know, right? The accuracy of it, but if it's close to that, it's like, it just seems like that dialogue should have taken place to find out what we thought would have been the best option, the Parks Board thought would have been the best option, and come to some type of resolution. So
Moving forward, I do have a question about the proposed ordinance. That'll be to the bond council, but before you leave, I just want to say, I appreciate all the work that the carpenters and you have put into this, as well as the administration. I'm actually a fan of having those healthy reserves as we expand our park systems almost by 50%. Is that safe to say? So having these reserves as we move forward, I think is very important to getting us to the goal line of actually what I'm confused, whether it's phase 1 or phase 2 of this construction on that project. However, we can't use it until there's certain parameters met. And I strongly agree with actually holding back some of those reserves for the rest of the town's amenities. But hopefully we can get those on the budget for next year in advance, so we don't have to keep having allocations requests throughout the year. Back to my question to the bond council on the ordinance number 9. If we go down to letter C, I just was confused on the verbiage there. It says the reasonably anticipated amount of qualified tax exempt obligations, and in parentheses, including qualified 501(c) obligations and tax exempt leases, but excluding other private activity bonds, in parentheses, which will be issued to the town and all entities subordinate to the town during 2023 does not exceed 10 million. So what does that 10 million represent? I'm just confused on that. Then the next line item talks about it a little more. Town, anybody acting in the name of the town as an entity subordinate to the town have not designated and will not designate more than 10 million of qualified tax exempt obligation during 2023.
Sure. So sorry for the confusion. Hi, Heather James with Ice Miller. So there's two kind of things at play here, right? There's the tax exemption and then there's the bank qualification. And the language that you're referencing in this entire section 2 is all about bank qualification. So banks can receive the full tax exemption on the investment, meaning that the coupon payments are tax exempt, and the bank can then also deduct the interest expense incurred, but only if certain findings are made. And those findings are that the bonds must be issued by a qualified small issuer, which is defined in the tax code, issued for a public purpose, and then actually designated, meaning that we have this language in the actual ordinance as a bank qualified obligation. So this is to allow the banks that might purchase these bonds to take advantage of that bank qualification.
So the 10 million, what does that represent?
So in order to take advantage, it would mean that the town would be issuing less than $10 million worth of those sorts of bonds in this calendar year. And so the Crow folks have found that they think that that's likely. So that's where we're asking that we put this representation in there so that the bonds are more attractive to potential purchasers. And they realize that that's a potential benefit for buying these bonds in addition to them being tax exempt.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else for me?
I think that's all I had for this. Thank you.
Any other questions from counselors?
I guess I'm just curious, Mr. President, if knowing that we're going to have more information coming on May 8th. I mean, is there something to explore in terms of a portion of this? And we could obviously still approve the bond or it's up to, but is there, assuming there may be more money in those accounts, is that something you want to, just because the conversation didn't happen, doesn't mean even if we approve the bond, we can't still figure out if we don't want to fully use the entire bond, right? Is that right?
Well, they'll probably go to market with the bond as soon as it's approved.
That sounds like a reasonable thing that we could explore.
How quickly do you have to go to market with the bond?
I don't believe there's a requirement for how quickly, so.
on when you need the dollars.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I again, from my perspective, and I'm sensitive to the fact that, you know, we all have our tolerance for reserves and debt and cash, and that's what makes this council unique, right? I mean, I would prefer if we have cash available to find a way to pay for it with cash, but I'm sensitive to the fact that, you know, others don't, and I don't know that. I mean, if we continued it and got the funds, and maybe the reality is we go through it and find out that we're not going to use cash still. So
I look at it a little differently. If it was a depreciating asset, it'd be different. But because this is a piece of land, it's my take that this is a great investment opportunity. Now that we've had time to look at it through a bonding, through borrowing, moving in that direction, not spending the cash that we have, because we know we'll need cash as we move forward to create whatever the vision is that the town creates. So with that said, that's my position. I just want to kind of lead into that, but I understand your perspective too. If we got cash, let's spend it. However, we don't know how much cash we have. Exactly. I mean, we do have what, 2 million in impact fees just sitting there, but we cannot use impact fees. So
We could use up to 31 acres based on our population, 31 to 34 of the 215. So that would be a small slice of that pie that we couldn't utilize in a different capacity later.
okay. I still think that it's an opportunity that at this point, I feel that is a good opportunity for the town.
sure.
I just don't think the door's closed on kind of a multi-pronged approach to funding it. Even if we pass the bond, if they're willing to hold till fund balances come in, you could have a quick conversation. If it's not there, then you bond what you need. If it is there, you bond a lesser amount. Am I not?
It's so expensive to bond though, like the rate is less than 4%. It just seems like if you're going to bond, right? Like if you bond for half, those fixed costs are just spread across that lower amount. I appreciate sort of what's trying to get done here, but I thought rates were going to be 7-8%,
Yeah.
3.75%. That's cheap money. I'd lock that in and save that cash for future councils. to
Take it
figure out.
now.
Yeah, exactly right.
I'd make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We got a first by Counselor Trailer, second by Counselor Culp. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion passes 6 in favor, 1 opposed. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job, Jared.
Up next is first item on new business, Community Enrichment Grant Committee presentation. And very good, Carol.
Good evening, counselors. My name is Carol Johnson. I serve as staff support for the Community Enrichment Grant Committee, and we have a video we'd like to share with you tonight.
statewide to not only Sullivan Men's Cultural Center, but to our quaint town of Zionsville. The intended outcomes include community involvement in preserving and teaching the history of Zionsville in a fun, engaging way, community involvement in the arts, visual, literary, and performing, exposure of our organization to persons not familiar with us, and we want to increase visitor attendance for Sullivan Months and Zionsville. We hope that you approve this proposal for Ghost Walk, as it will increase safety for our visitors and enhance the Ghost Walk experience with some much needed items. Thank you, and we hope to see you in October 6th and 7th. And it was when Ghost Walk is this year, and we hope to see you there. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, I'm Jordan Walters, and I'm on the board of directors for the Shalom House. Shalom House is a nonprofit, and we're focused specifically on food insecurity. That's the only lane we stay in. We started the Kids Sack Lunch Program in 2007. The Kids Sack Lunch Program, if you're not familiar with it, is a program within Boone County facilitated by the Shalom House where kids who typically rely on free breakfast and lunch at schools, when they're home from schools or on breaks, they don't have anything, or they don't have enough to eat, or sometimes anything to eat. Shalom put together this Kids Sack Lunch Program 16 years ago, and have targeted food insecure families. And in Zionsville specifically, there are around 30 sometimes, we expect this year, up to 40 kids who are going to be reliant on it 15 weeks a year. Simply put, we provide 5 breakfasts, 5 entrees, 5 fruits and vegetables, 5 snacks, and a book for the week. So each kid gets 10 meals and 5 snacks. In an adjoining town, Lebanon, we give milk vouchers from Kroger. And we distribute these meals 15 weeks a year. The grant that you generously awarded us, where is it going to go? That's because everybody wants to know, where's the money going to go. You're providing, say, 30 kids times 15. You're providing about 4,500 meals to kids who need it. The distribution happens at the rail, which is almost adjoined to the building I'm in right now. Everybody at Shalom House would like to thank the town council for this generous grant. The grant is going to be used to support a year of the Kids Sack Lunch Program specific to Zionsville, and it's going to protect our community's biggest and most promising resource, and that's our kids. So, thank you.
Hello, I'm Christine Fitzpatrick.
I'm Casey Mash.
I'm Candace Selmer.
And I'm Susan Shuby, and we are members of the board for the Zionsville Cultural District.
Zionsville Cultural District was formed in 2013. Our mission is to enrich the lives of residents and visitors by promoting and elevating the arts, our history, and culture. Our programs are designed to improve the quality of life for residents, to strengthen local business, and to enrich the experiences of visitors to Zionsville. Now, free summer concerts in the heart of Zionsville have been one of our town's longest standing traditions, dating back to the first summer concerts in Lincoln Park in 1994. In 2013, ZCD assumed leadership of the summer concert series, and we've continued this important tradition since then, thanks to our board of directors, our partners, our sponsors, and our donors.
With this grant that we were awarded, we will be able to support our 10th anniversary concert series this summer, which begins June 7th and runs continuously for 13 weeks to August 30th. June and July, the concerts are in Lions Park, and in August, the concerts are in Lincoln Park.
This grant will help us attract higher profile bands, starting with our season opener on June 7th, America's most popular nostalgic rock and roll show, Fielder and the Dozers. Other bands this summer include country, reggae, R&B, new wave, and a children's entertainer, Mr. Daniel.
Our free weekly concerts will provide an enjoyable opportunity for the community to gather and celebrate summer. will attract hundreds of visitors each week and will provide a showcase for diverse musical tastes, our town, and its businesses. So thank you very much for your support, and we hope to see you Wednesday evenings in Zionsville this summer.
Hello, my name is Andrew Van Zee, a board member with the Zionsville Little League. This year, Zionsville Little League is celebrating 70 years of providing boys and girls the opportunity to learn, develop, and compete in the sport of baseball and softball. This spring, we will have over 1,350 youth ball players ranging from ages 4 through 13 that will practice and play games at Lions Park and Mulberry Fields. Every year, Zionsville Little League has operated a concession stand to provide ball players and their families snacks and refreshments. As the volume of transactions increases, there is a need to provide stable internet to process credit cards. Our community enrichment project, Internet Access for Concessions and Security, will cover the upfront infrastructure costs for internet access at the Field 2 concession stand at Lions Park. Unfortunately, we've had several instances of petty theft and damages from break-ins. Having internet access at Zionsville Little League Field 2 concession stand will also allow us to install security cameras to decrease the potential for criminal threats and ensure the playing equipment is safely secured. This initial infrastructure funding will open the potential for future uses such as live game streaming and lighting automation. We are excited that this grant will benefit the thousands of future ball players and families that make Zionsville Little League their home. Zionsville Little League looks forward to our continued partnership with the town of Zionsville in providing quality youth sports activities for Zionsville families. Thank you.
Would be specific to Zionsville students. So that answered my only question. After doing a little research on each organization, I'm fully supportive. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but these will show up on probably our next set of claims. So I'm assuming that we don't need to vote on these until they're actually on our claims.
I'm guessing you need to approve them first because you're approving the actual approval of the grant applications, which I think is what we've historically done. And then you'll come back and when they actually send the payment out, it'll show up on your claims. I don't know when that will happen, but typically
That's the
I think
correct
it's
order,
a
too.
two-step process. Carol, are you shaking your head? Okay. I was looking for my assist. I couldn't find you. Did you see me standing?
Oh, that's funny.
If nobody has any questions, I'll make a motion to approve all of these grants.
Second.
First by Councilor Traylor, second by Vice President Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
And actually, before we move on, I'm glad we got to see that because it's not very often we get some, heartwarming things in these meetings. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing out there and appreciate you using these dollars responsibly and for good reason. Thanks.
I like that you say you might kind of be the reason you are the reason we're hearing this.
I am, and I'm okay with that.
That's right. That's right. Up next on new business is a consideration of an ordinance amending the town of Zionsville zoning ordinance. This is petition number 2023-5-Z. This is ordinance 2023-11, and we have Janice to present.
You're losing the crowd, Janice.
This happened the last time I was here.
A lot of zoning fans, apparently. Right?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Staff has provided the town council with a memorandum outlining this request, an ordinance for execution if approved, a favorable certification from the Plan Commission, a zoning location map, and the petitioner materials. Please allow me to highlight a few points before the project's representative Attorney Roger Burris presents the request. This is a petition for rezoning 3.42 acres from the open land zoning district to the urban single-family residential or RSF2 zoning district. The location is at 970 Starkey Road. The zoning map reflects the open land zoning to the north, south, and east of the property, but it also reflects the RSF2 zoning to the east, special use zoning to the north, and multifamily to the west. This request is to provide for the construction of a single-family home under the RSF2 zoning requirements, which is less restrictive than the open land requirements. Of note is that the open land district is not one that encourages single-family residential living, though over the years, many single-family residences have been constructed in the open land district. The Plan Commission did provide a unanimous favorable recommendation to the Town Council for this rezone at its April 17, 2020 meeting. If there's no questions for me, I will turn it over to Mr. Burris for his presentation.
Janice, I have a question. Does this kind of follow like what we're going to be hit with form-based code as we move forward with how we rezone properties? Is there any connection here as to why this is so complicated, I guess?
In my mind, this is completely separate.
Okay.
What you have here is a petitioner requesting a rezone rather than going to the BZA for variances.
Okay.
And in our experience in the past, we've had one petitioner go to the BZA for 5 different requests. I have another petitioner who's returning it their 3rd time. So that open land zoning ordinance is very restrictive in where and what you can do.
Okay.
So rather than a lot of variances, they opted to do petition for a rezone.
Fantastic. So one other question, I followed this, I attended that meeting. It seemed like they also made a commitment to only build one house on that property. Is that correct? Is that follow the land still?
That is correct. And I think Mr. Burris will probably give you more detail on that.
Fantastic.
My
Okay.
understanding is they have no intention of splitting the land at this point in time. They simply want to construct their single family home. However, Mr. Burris, as an attorney, is protecting his client and saying, should down the road they desire to split the land, they would commit to no more than in half.
No more than what?
They have two lots, not specifically 50-50, but 2 different lots.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't hear it properly. I was like, excuse me?
All right.
President Plunkett and members of the town council, my name is Roger Burris, offices at 410 West Oak Street in Zionsville. And I'd like to first say I am not here asking for any money. I represent Phil and Etelka Foimovich, who currently live in Carmel, but they would really like to relocate to Zionsville. They found a lot on Starkey Road. There was an existing home there that has been demolished. Janice did a nice job of presenting kind of the background on this, and it's really not complicated other than the fact that we've got this open land zoning in an area that's, 90% single family residential, some 1 acre lots to 5 acre lots or more. So the problem is, and I think, we could spend a lot of time talking about how we got here in terms of why we have this open land zoning in this area that's all residential anyway, but that might just be fruitless. So let's just consider the fact that, with the ordinance we have, there's either a property owner has to seek multiple variances because the setbacks and the lot coverage and all that for open land are very restricted. And I mean, most of the existing homes on Starkey Road don't comply with the open land zoning. So it just really doesn't make any sense for that zoning to be there. Councilor Melton brings up a great point, which I've also brought up, that it is the new zoning ordinance going to fix some of this. And I don't know that answer. I know what was presented to the Plan Commission back in November is that there's going to be a new zoning classification for the urban open land the rural equestrian district, the urban rural equestrian district, and the rural ag district. Those are all going to be changed to neighborhood rural. So, I mean, if that's what ends up happening, that'll be for you to decide when that new zoning ordinance is presented, if and when it's presented. But, I think everything's going to change, but my clients didn't want to wait for something that may or may not happen. My clients just want to build one house. So they decided to seek a rezoning, and to do that, we first looked at, what's the predominant zoning for the neighbors, or what's the predominant use, because we want to match the zoning to the use. And actually, some of the homes along Starkey Road were developed under the under the village zoning classification, so they would have even more restrictive requirements. But we didn't ask for that. We asked for RSF2. The Planning Commission thought that made perfect sense, so they unanimously approved it. I could talk more, but I think based on what you've heard, I'd rather just save any additional time, save your time, and answer any specific questions that you may have. Thank you.
Roger, it's a fairly wooded lot. And I saw on Google Maps where the old home was. It seems based on the plan, the new home would be constructed similarly where that old home was. Should I assume, as is many of the other homes along that road, that the front part will remain wooded outside of the driveway access, and probably appealing to the homeowners to leave it that way too?
Well, the other thing is there's a creek that goes through this property, and there's also a Zionsville sewer line that goes through this property at an angle. So the place to put the house is pretty limited, and it's in that back area.
Okay. And they probably not going to clear cut the whole front, I'm assuming.
Well, I've not asked my client that question, but
they could.
I don't think so. I mean, they want to build a nice, relatively large home, but it's not going to be a monster.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, they do things right. They want to have a nice home. They want to be welcome to Zionsville, and they don't want to make their neighbors angry.
Sure.
Roger, I just have a question. So we talked about developments and developments paying a park impact fee. Does this property pay a park impact fee also?
Any time there's a building permit, that's when the impact fee is assessed. I'm not sure if it's, when you're replacing an existing home with another home, whether that applies or not. I've never answered that question.
I'm getting a nod no, so from the back.
Yeah, Lance or James.
Typically what happens if your single family residence has already come in and paid that park impact fee, the new home is not going to pay that.
Okay, so if it was split again, there would be a park impact fee likely for the next property.
That's correct.
Great.
Any other questions from counselors?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have first by Counselor Trailer, second by Counselor Melton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you.
Roger, Janice. Up next is a consideration of an ordinance creating Fund 276 for Ready Grant funds. This is ordinance 2023-12. This is a first reading of Corey Meyer. Good evening.
Evening. Corey Sharp,
Corey Sharp, I'm sorry.
Meyer. Corey
Sorry.
Sharp's my happy name.
Sorry.
Redevelopment Commission Director, I've been asked to give you an update, and clearly I came on the wrong night for you to be creating a new fund.
Now, as long as you have a way to fund it, we're good.
I do fund it. So this is a line item. So hopefully in May, when you get your new budget, it will just be a new line item. And Zionsville received a $1.9 million grant through the READY program that the Indiana Economic Development Commission issued. And it is part of a $20 million grant that was given to the White River Regional Opportunity Initiative. This grant was written to focus on the planning and engineering for the First Street Road realignment in the Zionsville Gateway area, so between the creek and Sycamore Street. And so in order to continue to receive this funding from the state, we need to have a line item to put it in. And that is what this request is for.
So you're actually bringing us money.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm not, but you know.
So this is similar to like when we did the opioid and that kind of stuff. We're just opening up an account, accepting the money. And then I think I read in the ordinance that there's a line in there that talks about any funds that are distributed would be an appropriation through the council.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Any questions for counselors?
Is there any reason to do this all tonight?
Well, I mean, it's until we get funds, we're not going to send any money out of
I
it.
don't know if there were funds that were like sort of pending to be here any minute or something like that.
No, I mean,
No.
is there any
This
relevance
is
to
a
doing
state
it?
board of accounts requirement. So they're going to want, the state is going to want to see both with the Ready Fund application as well as the state board of accounts, a separate fund designated, because this grant funding can only be used for the purpose of which it was granted.
Right.
So as part of the grant application for Ready Grants, it requires that we actually put it in a separate account. So as I understand this, it's just creating the account to put the money.
No, I know. I'm just wondering, do we need to create the account tonight
Move it through.
as money is pending? Or if we do this over 2 meetings, because it's a first reading, so
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
yeah.
There's no
Is
impact
it
on
timely?
timeline, right? I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Questions from counselors? I would make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-12 or 2023-12, I'm sorry. Second by Councilor Troy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you. Up next is other matters. Are there any questions or anything counselors would like to bring up? Any other matters?
Yeah, if I could just have a moment of time just to recognize that, you know, of obvious personal importance to me, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and posted on my website about kind of the significance around this as well. Want to make the town aware of resource available now online. I helped co-found a 501c3 nonprofit. We just got our designation in November, but we've been working on it for 2 years. This is an effort by myself and my very dear friends, Amber Nunez and Carrie Ann Jordan. We founded this organization to fill the gaps in mental health resources and provisions within the town of Zionsville. It's called the Zionsville Alliance for Mental Wellness, and the website is zamwell.org, ZAMWELL.org. You can go to the site. If you are looking for assistance for yourself or a loved one, friend, please visit the website. We have a list of all the resources available in the town, as well as connections to national resources. We hope to provide increasing level of services, not therapy, but services to help link people together to the correct providers as well. So in this month where people are recognizing that this affects a lot of families, if it's not yourself, then somebody you know or love. So just want to point out that if instead of just Googling the internet, you'll be able to access a number of providers in the area, a number of resources in the area that could be helpful to you. So thank you.
Anything else from counselors?
I think everybody knows tomorrow is election day. Folks have been voting. So maybe half the folks have already voted. Just be sure to exercise your right to vote. There are a number of people who will put themselves out there on the ballot. Many of them are in this room, and I just want to thank them for putting themselves out there and running their campaigns. And I know what it feels like to be in it and be there tomorrow. And just thank you all for doing that, and good luck to everybody running.
At 6 to 6 tomorrow here. So, anything else from counselors?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
First by Councilor Tracy, second by Councilor Garrett. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The next regular town council meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 15th, 2023 at 7:30 a.m. in the Zionsville Town Hall Council Chambers, Final notice will be posted in compliance with the Indiana open door law. Thank you.